Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Travis back with another episode of the Rep by Rep Strength Podcast. And anyway, just headed home. Just got done training some folks, and just wanted to basically give a little background about how I got into training and kind of walk you through I don't know, my resume, so to speak, as far as things I've learned along the way and people who've helped me and things like that. So, right now my full-time job is the head strength coach here at the SEER School at Fairchild Air Force Base, working with people who are going through pipeline training, and also I work with some other tactical athletes that are in different career fields, but anyway, that's my full-time gig right now. And just to answer some questions about how did I get into this stuff, and what makes, because I've been seeing a lot of things on social media that quote unquote fitness professionals or quote fitness influencers are putting out there, and the majority of their stuff is just garbage. And I look at their formal training. Do they have any education? Do they actually train people? Or are they just putting something out there because they're getting paid to do it, and they're making money off of it? So that's why I feel compelled to start putting out more content on a regular basis that's actually truthful, accurate, and hopefully going to debunk some of these myths that some of these fitness influencers have kind of created, and to give you some quality information. So basically just to get ahead of the game, and because I know some people are going to say, okay, well, what the hell makes you, I hesitate to even say the word expert, because there's so many people that I look up to and look around and see some other coaches in this field that are so much better than I am. They're so much further along, and when I look at those guys and gals, it's intimidating, to say the least, to call myself an expert. But as someone who's always learning, and I will never say I have all the answers, and oftentimes I refer to other folks who have more of a specialty in a given field to answer certain questions regarding training and nutrition and recovery that I frankly don't know much about. So just as an example of that, was my own sister was texting me today and asking me about detox diets, and that's flat out garbage. Detox diets is just a marketing scheme, but that just goes to show that there's a lot of companies out there who are spending money and trying to manipulate people, and they're not doing it the right way. They're not, if they frankly wouldn't have a business or a product for that matter if they told the truth about, we know detox diets are shit or whatever. But anyway, I told my sister, I said, hey, those are garbage, and here's some folks that you can look to provide you with more insight into why, if you want more of the specifics. So I referred her to Dr. Mike Israetel, Dr. Lane Norton, Dr. John Berardi, Dr. Andy Galpin. I said, hey, these guys are going to be the ones that I look to, and that's certainly not an all-inclusive list, but check them out, see what they have to say on the subject. So anyway, let's get to it, and I'm just going to talk for a few minutes about kind of how I got started and things of that nature. So I guess what piqued my interest in human performance really started when I was in high school. So, I played sports up through about junior high, and then after that, I just got into rec basketball, and there's a YMCA right down the road, so I'd hit up the Y every day after school and, just play basketball for hours, play pickup games, and then just come home, take a shower, crash, and then go to school, do the whole thing every day. Because growing up in Eastern Indiana, there's not a whole lot to do. So that's kind of how I spent a lot of my time. So anyway, it all changed one year when I got my driver's license, because now I could drive myself rather than having my mom drive me from when she got off work and then drop me off, then come back, and that whole thing. So when I got my driver's license, I would just leave directly from school, drive to the Y, start playing basketball, and then leave. So I'm probably getting there at like 3:30, and then I would leave at, whenever they closed, which I think was 9. So just playing basketball the whole time and shooting the shit with some friends and that kind of thing. So anyway, that was what the majority of my days looked like. And anyway, once I got my driver's license, then for that next semester, I lost right around 50 pounds. So I went from about 201 pounds, somewhere right in that neighborhood, down to like 155, 150 range. But what was funny about it was my mom even asked me, she's like, hey, are you following some kind of weird diet? Are you taking some kind of diet pills? Are you doing something that you shouldn't be? It's like, no, absolutely not. It was simply, I was burning a ton of calories. Most nights, like I got home, I wasn't even interested in dinner. I just wanted to go straight to bed because I was just exhausted. So, and anyway, that's kind of what started the whole thing. So college rolled around, had to pick a major, had to go to school, that whole thing. And I decided I was going to go to University of Southern Indiana down in Evansville, and didn't know what I wanted to do. So initially I picked computer science, computer programming. And that lasted exactly 1 week. And I realized I was in way over my head, and went to my advisor and was like, hey, I got to change this. I'm so far behind. There's no way I can't imagine myself doing this for the foreseeable future. I need to do something different. So talked to my advisor and ended up changing my major to dietetics. So I stuck with dietetics for about 2 years down at USI, and that started to get kind of old, and I was like, well, I'm from Newcastle, Indiana, so that's a small town about an hour east of Indianapolis, and I was like, man, I'm not even interested in nutrition anymore. What else? What's something else that interests me? And it's like, well, the whole exercise thing of losing all that weight in high school is kind of interesting, I guess. Let's just go with exercise science. So transferred up to Ball State and changed my major to exercise science. And one of my first classes, I remember, it was like Intro to Exercise Science. And Dr. Scalen had a lot of speakers come in throughout the semester, and all of them would talk to us about what they do, who they work with, who they help, things like that. And I remember Coach Jason Roberson came in and gave a little 30-minute presentation or whatever about he's a head strength coach for Olympic sports at Ball State, and he works with these athletes, and just kind of gave an overview of his day, his week, that kind of thing. And it was super interesting to me. So he gave a very open invite. He's like, hey, if any of you want to come down and see it in action, our weight room's right around the corner, just come on down and shadow for a day. Well, I definitely shadowed for more than a day, more than a week. I just kept showing up to the weight room whenever I didn't have class, and I would asked Coach Robe question after question after question. And man, what made it so cool was how he would teach and answer questions to, there's a small group of us that were all interested in sport performance, and it's literally one of those things where there were no dumb questions. Nobody felt like an idiot. Nobody felt intimidated to ask questions because they knew Coach Robe was going to be patient, give a very thorough answer, and just made it an environment where, questions were encouraged, conversation was encouraged, debate, discussion, things like that. And it was just one of those atmospheres that was just very special, where everybody kind of wanted to be. And there was a small group of us that were down there every day. And, I didn't know at the time that Ball State had one of the best exercise science programs in the country. I had no clue. And it was just right in my backyard. Also, around that time was, Dr. Andy Galpin was finishing his PhD work at Ball State as well. And he was just right upstairs in the lab doing his work. And then he would come down to the weight room and, Andy would train, and, we would talk to him and have more debate, more discussion, ask him questions. And he was cool, man. He would continue to educate and teach us and provide us with the most up-to-date stuff that he's doing, what he's noticing in the lab. And what was awesome about that was like seeing what's going on in a laboratory, and maybe not, like we wouldn't go up and see it, but he would tell us what's going on currently. And then he'd come down and talk to Coach Robe, and then have discussions about, all right, well, that's great, but how's that going to work with our athletes? What are we going to do? And how can we begin applying this? So it literally was applied sports science, and getting to see that in action. And, I was basically an intern in that weight room for like 2 years, and the other awesome part about Coach Robe was he would give people who had been there like a responsibility of, maybe it wasn't a whole team, maybe it was just a couple of athletes, but if you were successful, if you did a good job, if you could basically communicate with the athletes, he'd give you a little leeway. And then over time, after you prove yourself, have discussions where you can back up what you're doing, what you want to do with the athletes. Okay, cool. Why is this a bad idea? Why is this a good idea? How are you going to defend yourself here? Why would you do this, not this, and so on. Then you get a little bit more responsibility. So, over time, each one of us that started out, that stayed the course, we got more teams. So, like I worked with men's swimming, and then it was men's and women's swimming, and so on. So, anyway, when all of us, that small group of us were seniors, kind of the capstone we had to do at Ball State was we had to do, I think it was a 540-hour internship. And so that's basically just a semester of, 8 to 5 type hours, Monday through Friday, and you'll knock it out. So some people had a thesis, some people had like a non-thesis option at the end. But anyway, Coach Robe got every single one of us placed with where he thought we would do the best, where we would have, he knew his big network, so he would he basically reached out to different coaches at different places and said, hey, I've got this guy, here's his resume, here's who he's been working with, I think you'll jive well with him. Are you taking on interns? Here's a guy I'd recommend if you are. So some guys went down to South Carolina, others went down to Florida, there's another guy went to Michigan. I mean, like, we all kind of spread out for our internships, but I was very fortunate. I got to just go right down the road to Indianapolis and intern with Coach Sean Wendell with the Indiana Pacers, who's still to this day the head strength coach for them. So went down there, interviewed, and then had like part of Christmas break off, and then started with Coach Wendell. And, all semester long, it was kind of the same type of deal of me asking him a bunch of questions. He gave me a ton to read and, discussion, him answering a ton of stuff for me and being very patient. And, he'd give me a guy, 2-3 guys to work with. And then, he'd of course oversee it and that kind of thing. But, anyway, I mean, you had to prove yourself first. You had to back up what you're saying, defend yourself, and then if you did a good job of that, then you might get an athlete. You might get 2 athletes to work with. So that was a great experience. And anyway, I kind of wrapped up, high school to undergraduate, and then from there went to Indiana University and got started in grad school with a focus in applied sports science. And anyway, as I was wrapping up, grad work, I think it's important to know here that not every place that I interned or tried to intern was a good experience. So some places absolutely had a terrible culture and did not welcome an attitude or a culture of learning. They rather wanted it to be like a janitor internship type deal, where it's hey, you just come in here, you clean this stuff, don't talk to us, don't ask us questions, just clean, and then if you're lucky, we might talk to you at the end of the day. That type of thing. And obviously, like, that didn't work for me. So not because of the work, absolutely not. I don't mind the work, but it was more of how, for lack of a better word, how hateful they were and how much they did not encourage learning and discussion and debate and questions like Coach Robe and Coach Wendell did. So that's why a couple places didn't work out, and that's absolutely okay. And it gave me a good idea of what I don't want to be like. And anyway, I had like 12 hours left, I think, before I was finished with my master's work. And I went to my advisor, Dr. Henson, and I proposed the idea of, hey, I've got 12 hours in electives left. How about if I can find a good internship spot, possibly a graduate assistantship, in or out of state, can I use that towards my 12 hours of electives? And Dr. Henson is an awesome guy who's very creative and open to suggestions and ideas if they're well structured. And anyway, he said, yeah, absolutely. You find it, then bring it to me and we'll talk. So when I was in undergrad, I remember several schools that I just kept hearing such great things about. There was Springfield College. There was East Tennessee State. Another one that came to mind was University of Wisconsin La Crosse. All of these programs are getting built up, and UConn's another one, like absolutely rock star solid programs. And I wanted to go be a GA at one of these places, learn from some new people, ask some questions to some new faces and things like that. So, anyway, I emailed Coach Kevin Schultz, who was the director of sport performance at UW La Crosse at the time. And anyway, we went back and forth a little bit, and I said, hey, I'm interested in doing a GA ship, if you got space for me. And he's like, hey man, if you can get yourself up here, I'd be happy to have you and work with you and teach you some things, and we can go into it. So that worked out. I went up to La Crosse, Wisconsin for a semester and was in the weight room with Coach Schultz quite a bit and met a lot of really good people up there, and learned from him. And he was another one who welcomed learning, discussion, debate. We'd ask questions. There's a small group of us sport performance guys who are all grad students, and we would all argue with each other and talk about programming, how we're working with these athletes versus these athletes, why do this, not this, and really challenged each other. And I think we all became better because of it. And anyway, now Coach Schultz is the director of Olympic sports at University of Wisconsin at Madison. So his volleyball team just won a national title. And, it's just cool to take a moment to reflect and see, okay, what do these three guys who are mentors to me have in common? The big thing they have in common so far is they all welcome learning, discussion, debate, defend yourself. You can do whatever, but you better be able to defend it type of deal. So, and all of them, also I would include Dr. Galpin in that as well, is I know I can reach out to these guys at any time and they will help me in any way they can. And that goes back to and speaks volumes to the type of guys that they are. And, really means a lot. I know it's not just me, but there's so many others that they've positively affected, as well. So, there was that. And then another story that really sticks with me was when I was in grad school. I was texting with Coach Robe, and he's like, "Hey, a bunch of us just went up to University of Michigan a few weeks ago." And he goes, "You should really go up there, meet that staff, ask questions, and learn from them." So I was like, "Yeah, man, absolutely." So I go up there the next weekend. Well, I'm actually up there like Wednesday through Friday. So I go up there the following week, and, up there at the time was like, there's Mike Favor, who's the director of Olympic sports. And to the best of my knowledge, he's still there. And then there's Jason Cole, head strength coach. And then there's Bo Sandoval, he was at Michigan. Then he went to UFC, head strength coach or director of sport performance. And now he's at Texas A&M as their director of sport performance. And then there was Guy Hornsby, who's putting out tremendous research now. And anyway, there's all these guys there, and I was pinging around, asking them all questions, talking with them. And Coach Favor comes down to the weight room and does his workout or whatever, and then he comes over to me, and he's like, "Hey, man, come with me up to my office for a minute." So we go up to his office and sit down, and he's like, "Here, what do you want to drink?" I've got water, Diet Coke, whatever, Powerade, whatever it was. And he's like, "Hey, man, I've blocked off the next 30 minutes on my schedule to talk to you." And I said, "What in the hell do you want to talk to me about? I'm just a grad student, man." And he goes, "I know you made a trip up here and you want to learn, and I want to help you any way I can and be a resource for you. You've got 30 minutes. Ask me as many questions as you want, and I will do my best to answer them as thoroughly as possible." And for like 30 seconds, I didn't know what to say, trying to think, oh my God, this guy is taking time out of his very busy schedule to ask questions, or to let me ask questions. And, I said, "Well, why the hell are you doing this?" And he's like, it's you younger guys that care and are eager and want to learn, that guys in my position need to take time to teach and help. So what questions do you have? And honestly, for the next 30 minutes, it was him and I just sitting there talking training. And I just couldn't believe it. Like, I couldn't believe how generous he was with his time. And that just continues to speak volumes to what you will run into, more likely than not in this field, is guys who want to help other people. And, I'm sure if I had, talked to Coach Sandoval or Dr. Hornsby or any of those other guys and said, "Hey, can I get 30 minutes of your time?" I'm sure they would have structured that into their day if they all knew I was coming or whatever, because they all care about the advancement of the field. And that's one thing that I've just really stuck with me throughout the years, so, anyway, then after I graduated, started out small D2 NAIA school in Lawrence, Kansas at Haskell Indian Nations University, and, worked there and served a 2-year contract, and it was a hell of a learning experience. Really good for me, especially going in as a minority. I'm a white dude going into an all Native American school, and I've got to learn how to build rapport very quickly, build relationships that are genuine, and then also establish that KLT that I got to help to have people know, like, and trust me, so that they feel safe and secure, so that we can get into some training. So it was one of the best experiences for me. And then from there, just moved into the private sector, and was in the private sector from, that would have been 2014 through 2020. Because after that, I got into, some personal training, working with some athletes here and there and privately. Then myself and a friend opened a private sport performance facility that is still doing well to this day, called Evolution Athletics in Lawrence, Kansas. And he runs it and is doing great things with it. And, so July of 2020, I sold my portion of the business to him, and he's doing a great job. And then I moved up here to Spokane, Washington, and I've been working with tactical athletes ever since. So that's kind of the quick overview of why and how I got started, who's helped me along the way, and kind of their attitudes of, just making sure that I was surrounding myself with people who wanted to teach and wanted to help. And that is why I continue to help people the way that I do. And I take time for people, is because the guys who help me, truly and genuinely care and answered questions to the best of their ability. And none of them thought or think that they're too good or too big for anybody or anything. So they will always take time to help other people. And, that had a huge impact on me as a person and as a coach. So anyway, I hope that helps, kind of give a little background to some people and answer some questions there about, well, who's this guy talking about training and performance, and what's he know about it and whatnot. So, and then it's one of those things where I absolutely am still continuing to learn. I still call these guys up and others and talk with them on a regular basis to talk training and talk, how do we all get better? How do we improve? Where am I lacking right now? Where am I good? That, I can always improve that areas where I'm good, but where am I lacking where I can really develop? So anyway, I hope that helps, provide a little insight there. And if you have any questions specifically, if there's anything I can help you with, just drop me an email, jtbarrettfitness@gmail.com. All right. Have a good night.